If China invades Taiwan, America will step in. That sentence has been repeated for more than 2 decades. Politicians say it. Analysts recycle it. Late-night hosts turn it into punchlines. A small island, a narrow stretch of water, and the world's most powerful military supposedly willing to risk global war over a place most Americans can't point to on a map. To many people, the idea sounds absurd. The United States doesn't even officially recognize Taiwan as a country. There is no formal defense treaty. On diplomatic maps, Taiwan exists in a gray zone. Washington calls this strategic ambiguity. Never promise too much. Never say no outright. Keep everyone guessing. So the obvious question follows. If Taiwan isn't officially an ally, if there is no binding obligation, if every White House statement is deliberately vague, why does every U.S. president, regardless of party, repeat the same warning? We will not allow Taiwan to fall. Why does the Pentagon react instantly when Chinese jets cross Taiwan's airspace? Why do U.S. aircraft carriers move when a single American politician lands in Taipei? The media frames this as a battle of values: democracy versus authoritarianism, freedom versus control. But no one serious in Beijing believes that explanation, and neither do the real decision-makers in Washington. Because Taiwan was never about values, it was never about sympathy, and it was never really about democracy. Taiwan isn't a joke, it's a trap. And the United States is already inside it. If Taiwan vanished tomorrow, the world wouldn't just lose headlines, the world would stop. Your smartphone, your car, military weapons, satellites, AI servers, power grids, all of it. Taiwan produces nearly 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors and the most critical chips. The ones at 5 nanometers and below are almost entirely made by a single company, TSMC, one company, on one island, less than 100 miles from mainland China. These chips are more strategic than oil. Without them, modern economies don't slow down. They collapse. Banks fail. Logistics freeze. Hospitals break down. Weapons stop working. For decades, the United States outsourced manufacturing. Factories closed. Globalization was cheaper, and quietly, America placed the backbone of its technological power in Taiwan. U.S. fighter jets, missile guidance systems, satellite networks, even parts of nuclear command infrastructure, all depend on Taiwanese chips, which means one thing. If Taiwan falls, Asia doesn't just destabilize. The United States goes blind. That's why Taiwan isn't a moral cause for Washington. It's a system survival problem. And when survival is at stake, countries don't get choices. They get trapped. Taiwan did not become indispensable by accident. It was engineered. In the 1970s, the United States made a strategic choice. Manufacturing was expensive. Environmental rules were tightening. Labor costs were rising. So America moved production abroad. But advanced technology couldn't just be handed to anyone. Taiwan was different. It was politically dependent on the U.S., militarily vulnerable, and completely surrounded by uncertainty, which made it perfect. Washington helped transfer knowledge. American companies shared designs. U.S.-educated engineers returned home. Then came a decision that changed everything. Instead of designing chips and manufacturing them together, Taiwan separated the two. Design stayed in America. Manufacturing moved to Taiwan. This created the foundry model, and TSMC mastered it. While American firms chased profits, Taiwan chased precision. Decade after decade, TSMC reinvested. More expensive machines? More extreme processes? More dependence. By the time Washington realized what had happened, the supply chain had collapsed inward. Only Taiwan could do it at scale. Only Taiwan could do it reliably. The U.S. didn't lose manufacturing by force. It gave it away, and now it can't take it back fast enough. From Beijing's perspective, Taiwan is not just a breakaway province. It's a knife pointed at China's throat. China imports the majority of its advanced chips. Its military modernization depends on them. Its AI ambitions depend on them. Its economic growth depends on them. And the most advanced chips in the world are sitting on an island China does not control. Worse, that island is protected by the United States. Every Chinese war planner understands the equation. As long as Taiwan remains separate, China remains technologically constrained. No great power can accept that forever. This is why reunification is not a slogan. It's a deadline. Xi Jinping doesn't need to invade tomorrow. He just needs to make sure the option never disappears. Because if Taiwan becomes permanently protected, if US factories eventually replicate TSMC, then China loses leverage forever. For Beijing, waiting is dangerous, but acting too early is catastrophic. And in that narrow window between patience and panic, the most dangerous decisions are made. Many commentators compare Taiwan to Ukraine. They shouldn't. Ukraine is land. Taiwan is infrastructure. Ukraine exports grain and steel. Taiwan exports the nervous system of the modern world. And unlike Ukraine, Taiwan cannot be slowly supplied. There is no land border, no endless truck convoys, no gradual escalation. If conflict begins in Taiwan, it begins at full intensity. Missiles hit ports. Airstrips are cratered. Undersea cables are cut. The first targets wouldn't be soldiers. They would be fabs. Semiconductor factories are not symbolic assets. They are irreplaceable. A single advanced fabrication plant takes more than a decade to build and costs over $20 billion. Once damaged, they don't restart. They vanish. Every US defense simulation reaches the same conclusion. Even if China fails to occupy Taiwan, even if the invasion collapses, the global economy still enters shock. This is why Washington doesn't treat Taiwan as a regional issue. It treats it as a systemic failure scenario. Unlike Ukraine, Taiwan cannot be supported over time. It must be prevented. There is no plan B once the first missile launches, and that reality terrifies everyone involved. From the outside, it looks like America has options. Negotiate, de-escalate, walk away. Inside Washington, those options don't exist. If the US abandons Taiwan, every ally notices. Japan notices, South Korea notices, NATO notices, and more importantly, supply chains notice. Once trust collapses, alliances don't slowly weaken. They snap. The dollar's dominance depends on stability. Trade depends on predictability. Military alliances depend on credibility. Taiwan sits at the intersection of all three. This is why US policy sounds confused, why statements contradict each other, why ambiguity is maintained. America is buying time. Time to rebuild factories. Time to diversify supply chains. Time to reduce dependence. But time is running faster for China than it is for the US, and in that imbalance lies the danger. Because history shows something uncomfortable. Great powers don't choose their defining conflicts. They inherit them. And Taiwan is one America didn't plan for, but cannot escape. Publicly, everyone insists there is no deadline. Privately, every major power is watching the same clock. The United States is racing to rebuild what it lost. Arizona, Texas, Ohio, new chip plants, new subsidies, new laws. The CHIPS Act isn't industrial policy, it's damage control. But advanced manufacturing doesn't move on political timelines, it moves on physics. Lithography machines take years to install. Engineers take decades to train. Supply chains resist duplication. Even under perfect conditions, America cannot fully replace Taiwan before the 2030s. China knows this. Every year Taiwan remains central, the pressure increases. Not because Beijing wants war, but because delay benefits Washington. At the same time, Taiwan itself is trapped. The more important it becomes, the more dangerous its position gets. Its factories are shields and targets, too valuable to destroy, too valuable not to. This is the paradox at the heart of the crisis. Peace depends on everyone believing war would be irrational, but deterrence depends on everyone believing war is possible. That balance is fragile, and history is not kind to fragile systems. Taiwan is not the next battlefield. It is the fault line. Every major force of the 21st century converges here. Technology, trade, military power, national pride. Unlike past flashpoints, Taiwan cannot be isolated. There is no limited conflict scenario. If Taiwan breaks, the global order breaks with it. That is why the United States cannot let it fall. Not because it wants to fight China, but because it cannot survive the consequences of not doing so. This is not about choosing sides. It's about avoiding collapse. And that is what makes Taiwan so dangerous. No one wants war. No one believes they can afford it. And yet, everyone is preparing for it. Because the world we built, the economy we optimized, the technology we centralized, has only one weak point. One island, one supply chain, one mistake away. And once that mistake happens, there will be no jokes, no ambiguity, no second chances, only consequences. Welcome to the most important place on Earth.